Hello, Kinky Weasel here. Today I'm going to take a brief break from Gaslands and I'm going to paint up my last Battletech Clan Invasion Salvage. This is the last one I've got, so I thought if I'm going to play with it, I might as well play with it on camera. So let's find out what I've got. So it's a, what was that? Let's have a look. It's an Ebon Jaguar. Yeah, I like that one. There's a clan, isn't there? The Jaguars, is it Cloud Jaguars, Smoke Jaguars, something like that? That's what they're called. Yeah, Clan Smoke Jaguar. So it's got to be done, hasn't it? It's an Ebon Jaguar. I'm gonna have to do it as a Clan Smoke Jaguar. Yeah, this could be fun. First phase is complete. I've primed this model, initially primed it black, and then I came in with a sort of a light zenith all over the top, spraying down the top with white. So both are Army Painter rattle cans, black and white. I'm now going to come in and dry brush across the top surfaces because I'm going to paint this with speed paint, and I'm hoping that just by dry brushing a bit extra on top, like kind of slap chop method, make the speed paints work a bit more effectively. Oh, that's done. So I'm part way through painting this because I forgot to press record when I started. So basically I'm using a mixture of 3 speed paints. I'm using Occultist Cloak and Ashen Stone in equal quantities, and then I've diluted it a little bit with the speed paint medium. That's just so that it flows a little better and is more, should we say, translucent. Now, as I've said before, you have to be brave with these paints. You've got to slap them on because you need enough paint on the surface for the speed paint to actually do what it's supposed to do, to work. So you need enough that it's going to flow back from the edges and flow into the recesses, etc. You just need to be aware of it puddling and pooling too much on the lower parts of the figure when gravity takes its effect. But for now, I'm just trying to get a decent coat of these paints over the figure. I can be quite a slapdash with this because the whole figure needs to be grey to start with, I think. I think that's going to be all right. There it is. Let's leave it to dry. So the speed paint's now dry. As you can see, it's had quite a decent effect, quite a reasonable effect. But I'm going to try and enhance this a little bit more. So I'm going to come back in now and very lightly dry brush over this coat, just to pick out some highlights. And then once that's done, I'll come back over again with some speed paint in the same colour, just to see what it does, if it does enhance things and make it look even more effective. Although having said that, the way this is looking going on, I don't think I'm going to need to go back over with the speed paint. Now I have a little plan for this model, and that's going to require a bit more painting now. I'm just going to paint in some of the armor panels, primarily the legs and the head, I think. And I'm doing this because I'm going to be using a pale speed paint, and I figured it would be easier just to do the whole thing grey, then come in and touch in again with the white, the areas that I want to come in with the paler paint. So I'm not going to paint in too many of the panels. So this is where I am so far. I'll finish this off and then come back to you. So the panels are done. I've done sort of the front of the legs, the head, a little bit of the back, and just the top panels on the backs of the guns here. I had to stop myself there because I was getting a bit carried away. I'm now coming in with another speed paint, Ancient Honey it's called, and I want to start painting over these white panels. That's why I wanted them white, so the yellow would show up nicely. But again, because it's speed paint, you've got to use a reasonable amount for it to do what it's supposed to do. I'm going to do this over all of the panels. We'll see how that turns out. So it is with the yellow dry. It's a little bit blotchy, but I'm not worried about that. So I'm now going to come in with another speed paint, Satchel Brown, which I'm going to add a little bit of the speed paint medium to. With a very fine brush, I'm going to add some spots. All I want for these spots is just be a sort of slightly darker patch, really, because I want this to have a Jaguar spot pattern. So that's the first stage. I mean, I know it looks probably more like a giraffe than a Jaguar at the moment, but I'll be coming in later when these are dry and hopefully improving the look. I think some of these blobs are a bit dark, but yeah, they'll do. Right, I'm coming in now with just ordinary matte black paint that I've diluted to make it workable. A very fine brush. And all I'm going to try and do now is get some dots around the outside. Made that look a little bit square, I think, but and I'm going to do similar with all of these darker areas. And from what I've seen, Jaguar stripes are very similar to leopard stripes, subtly different. I'm not sure whether my painting skills are good enough to catch that subtle difference, but essentially you've got the yellow background, you've got darker spots, and then those spots are surrounded with like rosettes of black dots, which do connect up, but also have gaps in them as well, as a ring of darker spots around the brown bit. And with Jaguars, they almost form almost like a square pattern. It seems to me. Like I said, I'm not sure that my painting skills are sufficient to replicate that. But hopefully this will at least look like the spots on a big cat. I'm now going to come in with some metallics, just picking out little areas that want to have a little bit of pop. For this, I'm using broadsword silver from, again, the Army Painter Speed Paints. They're not bad metallics, but you know, just using them because my speed paint rack is close to hand. You could easily use any other kind of metallic paints. So I've touched in some of the metal bits. I've also done some red bits just because I could, really. Yeah, I just thought the red would add just a little bit of fun. Just coming in now with a mix of Army Painter Soft Tone and a bit of water. Just diluted it down. I'm going to touch this over all of the leopard spot panels, trying to just add a little bit of shade, maybe a little bit of definition to some of the panel lines, just to add a little bit of depth. And while I'm at it, I'll add a bit to the red as well, because why not? Now the brown wash is dry, Coming in with another wash. This is a wash that I've made from speed paint, actually. I'm using speed paint Grim Black and the speed paint mixing medium, but I've done it in a ratio of about 75% medium to 25% paint. And I'm just going to put it on like a wash over all of the bits that weren't done with the brown, so everything else. There you go. So that's now dried. I'm quite happy with that. It's picked out some details. I think I'm going to call that the actual main body of the painting done now. So what I'm going to do now is come in with a little bit of brown. I'm using Army Painter Fur Brown, but anything will do. I'm just literally just going to dry brush a little bit of dusty weathering around the bottoms of the legs. Sort of more of a stipple than a dry brush per se. 30 feet, all done. So just move on to the basing now. What I'm going to use for the basing, I've got a tin of old garden soil and bits and pieces that I've sieved and dried out. So let's use that for the base. I'm just going to dip it in here, let it pile up like that, and then I'm going to use this stuff. It's Kraut Cover Kraut Fixer, and it's, I think, but it's a fluid that you drop over your dry basing materials when you place them. You just literally drip it on there. It soaks in, and when it dries, it holds all of the basing material nice and solid. I think it's a blend of PVA and isopropyl alcohol, I think, just from the smell of it, but it might not be. Whatever, it works really well. So once you've done that first bit, as you can see, I've got basing on there. I'm just going to scatter some dry stuff over the top while the basing sealant is still wet, so that some extra stuff sticks to it. So there you go, we've got a base covered. Now I'm going to put that aside to dry. When it's dry, I'll paint in the edge of the base, and then that will be this robot done, I think. So it's time now for the glamour shots. Overall, I'm fairly happy with this. Fairly basic techniques, no great shakes when it came to painting. Mainly speed paint. Most fiddly bit really was doing the spots, but I think if you take your time, there's nothing particularly complex about it. I mean, if I can do it with my eyes the way they are, I'm sure most people could manage something like this. Good for a gaming piece, I think. Obviously not a display piece. You don't win any competitions, but thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found this useful. And, well, see you back here soon. Bye for now. Take care.